Meanwhile, the Basic Education Minister Angie Motshekga says the department is chasing a tight deadline to conclude the vaccination of teachers by the 8th of July. Minister Motshekga says that Johnson & Johnson jab will help speed up the inoculation process for the department, as it only requires a single administration, unlike the Pfizer vaccine, which needs 2 doses. She said union leaders who had also called for the vaccination of teachers would, as of today, lead the vaccination campaign. Basil Manuel is the executive director at Teachers Union Naptosa. Let's find out from him how then this has proceeded. So is that correct, Basil? By the way, good evening and thank you so much for joining us. Is it correct that you are now in charge, fully in charge of this process, and how has it unfolded?
Good evening, and it's a pleasure to be with you. I don't know about fully in charge. Look, we've been surprised by how slick it has gone in most places. There have been 1 or 2 little hiccups, but the Education Department's planning around this seems to have been good. Well, we were allowed to see and make input into some of these plans, and whilst you can't go through every single line item, we were pleased with the overall planning. Today, we saw the Northwest, Free State, Mpumalanga, Gauteng, and KZN roll out vaccinations. In all the provinces, but in Free State, things seem to have gone off smoothly. In the Free State, in Bloemfontein, there seemed to have been some miscommunication, where far too many people descended upon the vaccination center at the City Hall. And that caused a little bit of mayhem. It wasn't sorted out quick enough because now the people were there. Troublesome as it was, it didn't break down the entire system. However, we've called upon the MEC and the head of department to ensure that people get the right message. It would appear as though all schools were given the message to come at the beginning of the day. And so that meant that that all the schools were closed, and that was never the intention.
Okay.
But that is a hiccup. At all the other centers in Durban, we saw at Moses Mabhida, the vaccination center there, people started getting edgy towards the end of the day. Now we've got to ask them to remain calm because you've been given this particular slot, and some of them will be early in the morning, some of them will be late in the day. But people were well behaved, they were excited, they were pleased, and the numbers that turned out was most gratifying. It was really, really splendid to see.
Basil, I have to ask you this, especially given the deadline that the minister has mentioned. Do you think that'll be met, that the 2 weeks will have seen all teachers who want to be vaccinated? And talk to me about, are there concerns about those who are electing not to be inoculated?
On both scores, concern. The first one about whether 580,000 is reachable. Certainly, in my mind, it is. The president spoke now the other night and exhorted our health workers to get to 300,000 a day. So that makes 580,000 over 10 days a very, very small number. So I believe it's possible. Some of the problems lie in provinces like the Northern Cape, where distances are vast. People can complain in a province that is densely populated about traveling some distance. But when you think about a province like the Northern Cape, you really realize how far apart towns are, etc. So I hope that the rural areas are going to get the same treatment and will be serviced in the same way. Up to now, we've had no doubt that that will happen. Insofar as the doubters, sorry.
Okay, go ahead.
Shall I?
Yes, go ahead.
Insofar as the doubters are concerned, those who don't want to take it, we've been trying to work with the 15% from our survey that are sitting on the fence. 10% said they are anti-vaxxers, and they are a more difficult group. But we've heard the statement from the department saying if you have a comorbidity, you've applied for a concession, for heaven's sake, you're now being given the opportunity to be safe. Can you expect for the concession to continue? Now, of course, we will debate that in the ELRC, but is it unreasonable? And quite honestly, I want to caution people not to cut off their noses to spite their faces. The question to ask is, where am I safer, with or without the vaccine?
Okay, so on that score, Basil, I must ask about the cluster outbreaks. We know that there are schools who have had to be shut down because of this. And I want to know, is this continuing? We know that the inoculation doesn't mean that you are immediately protected from COVID-19, that you are still able to infect others with it. So what will happen? I know Minister said it will be considered on a case-by-case basis. But it's also important to note that ECD teachers are seemingly left out.
On both scores, the first one about the cluster outbreaks and the continued opening of schools. We've supported schools remaining open. I want to be categoric about that. However, we've also said it's not a blank check. We want to see every district, every province, on a day or second day basis so that we can assess. And we're taking advice from the medical people, of course. And we know that there are conflicting medical issues coming out. Some saying close immediately, others are saying, no, let's wait and see. School is still a safer place. We've taken the view, school is still safer, especially for the youngsters that are so easily infected. Those are the ones in the high school, because clustering outside is less controlled than clustering inside. So we're on a day-by-day basis waiting to see, but certainly we haven't supported the call to summarily close. And your second question was?
On ECD teachers, the fact that they...
yes. ECD teachers within the DBE will be vaccinated. However, remember that many of them are in the Department of Social Development. And this is the same with TVET colleges and CET colleges that are in higher education. Now, DBE doesn't have the say over those people. So, and I know that we had made an appeal for this to be done. We've even made an appeal for student teachers who will be going into schools to be looked at and to be done. And of course, we've been promised that the ministry will be taking this to those departments to do some groundwork, but it doesn't fall within in our department.
So it's an area of concern. Basil, thank you so much for speaking to us. Basil Manuel is the Executive Director at Teachers Union Naptosa. We're going to take a quick break. Do stay with us.